Hello everyone, welcome to guitar lesson number 6. We actually did a lesson 6 a little while ago and I reviewed it and I think that maybe it jumped up in difficulty a little bit too fast, so I rewrote the lesson to basically look over D string notation instead of introducing so many new concepts. I will go ahead and share the previous lesson 6 as sort of a, we'll call it a challenge. Not even a lesson, but just extra material. We'll just call it challenge material, and that'll be something I'll upload probably after lesson 7 or 8. I think that's right around where we'll actually want that to be tied in with the rest of our material here. So as always, we are going to do 2 types of these videos. This video will be complete with explanations of what we're doing, and the other type of video will be the just playing video, which is where we go through the same material, but instead of explaining the exercises, we just play straight. I just play straight through, and that's intended to give you a quick way to just play along if you feel comfortable enough to do that. I highly encourage everyone, as usual, to download the sheet music, which is 100% free. So that will be in the Google Drive link in the YouTube video, and it will also be in the Twitch panel. Actually, right below the Twitch panel, you can find the link to the Google Drive right there. Okay, I think that covers everything. These are live lessons on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, of course it's not live, but if you ever want to jump in and ask questions in the middle of teaching, that's completely fine. Right now there's no set schedule for the lessons, but at some point we'll be doing these on a set schedule once or twice a weekend, and as soon as that schedule's concrete, I will have it set up, and we can get these lessons rolling in a schedule. Anyway, so yeah, today we are looking at 3 new notes. We're looking at D, E, and F. So if you've been keeping up with the lessons until now, you'll see that we actually have we have D, E, F already, right? We have the D here on the 2nd string, we have E as the open, and we have F on the 1st string. And remember, you can always look off to the right to see all the notes that we've reviewed up until this point. You'll notice we actually have some extra ones that we haven't looked at yet. Those will pop up in the future lessons, but we also have these ones here. These 3 ones at the bottom are the ones we're looking at today. Let's see. Okay, so the new open D string, we've actually looked at this in a previous lesson, but we'll review it really quick. It's the open 4th string, and we're using our thumb for this. The E note is on the same string, but we're using our 2 finger or middle finger on that same string, on the 4th string. We're pushing down right next to the fret, and we get our E note. And to get our F note, we use our 3rd finger, or the ring finger, on the 4th string as well. So D, E, and F. Before we go into the exercise, I want you to listen to the similarity between the 2 Ds we know, so this D and our original D, this E and our open E, and this new F, and our 1st fret F on the 1st string. Listen to the similarity. Those are what we call octaves. They are 8 notes apart alphabetically, so D to D is 8 notes apart, E to E is 8 notes apart, and F to F is 8 notes apart. They share, they are within the same pitch class, which means they are both called D, and these are both called E, and these are both called F, but the frequency of the higher ones is double that of the lower ones. Okay, so when we play through these, when we get to a new exercise, I will stop and I will explain what we're doing. But for the first 4 lines here, we're just going to go straight through. We start with whole notes, go into half notes, quarter notes, and eighth notes, right? So 4 counts per note, then 2 counts per note, and then 1 count per note, and then these each are half of a beat. So these go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, let's give it a try. These are all open D, what we're doing here. 4 clicks and we'll start. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. On to quarter notes. Remember, you can keep your fingers planted on your strings for stability, or if you'd like, you can let them hang in the air like this. It's both okay. Don't plant your fingers on the guitar for stability, but the strings or air is okay. Doing mostly free stroke on these. And that would take us on to our E note. And just a quick recap on free stroke versus rest stroke. Free stroke is either into the air or into our finger, right? So here's into the finger, and just a little bit less movement is just into the air. A rest stroke is touching the next string for any moment of time. You don't have to rest on it for some period of time, like a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever. Any amount of touching, even if it's for a nanosecond, is still a rest stroke, right? Those are all rest strokes. Free strokes, rest strokes. So we're using mostly free strokes right now, but if we use rest strokes, I'll try to call them out. Okay, E note again is second finger, 4th string, 2nd fret. Sounds like this. Okay, here we go. 4 clicks and we'll start. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. If you'd like, you can practice vibrato. That's wiggling up and down. If that's too much to worry about, then just stay still, and that's okay too. Quarter notes. pause there for a second. Let's see. S Silver XRR is asking, what program is this? I want to learn. This program is called Guitar Pro 7. I think this is the latest version. I'm pretty sure Guitar Pro 8 is not out yet, but don't quote me on that. It's not that expensive for a music program. It's I think it's around $50 if I remember right. And I think you can still buy older versions like Guitar Pro 6 possibly for a little bit cheaper. But when you compare that to stuff like Sibelius and Finale, which run, you know, 200, 300, 400, 500, you know, $50 for a Guitar Pro is not bad at all. And so yeah, you can actually, here, I think I can, yeah, here we go. So I can show you. I write all of the lessons on this program, and there's a tab view as well, which I'm not leaving on for the lessons, but this is a very quick way to input the notes. And I leave this off during the lessons because I'm not, I'm trying to teach notation instead of tab for most people, since I think that's, tab is sort of self-explanatory, where notation is, it's a bit harder to learn, I guess. It's a little more symbolic than tab, but it does convey more information, I think, and it lets you communicate with other musicians besides guitarists, which is sort of the big thing. So yeah, actually, another thing I'm going to be doing here is uploading all the Guitar Pro files to the same Google Drive link. So if anyone has Guitar Pro, what you can do is you can say you want to practice along with the Guitar Pros. You click on this metronome marking here, go like this, and you can actually set the tempo just by, okay, it's not actually showing it because I'm only streaming this main window, but basically what I'm looking at right now is a window that shows tempo, and then you rewrite the tempo to whatever you want. So if you want to practice faster, you can set the tempo up to 90, or slower, you can set it down to 60, or whatever you want to do. And it's very simple. Cool. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, don't feel bad about asking them. It's what the lessons are here for. Okay, so let's keep going here on F. We're going to use our third finger on F like this, and we'll keep going. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Repetition is what leads to ability. Repetition and reward makes that a bit easier to swallow. So when we get into these more exciting passages here, hopefully, if you like the music, it'll inspire you to practice some of the repetition we're doing. This stuff is not exactly musically enchanting, but it's important to practice it still. And it doesn't take too long to go through this stuff. Should have in your head 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Always try to think of your counts, think of where you are. D, E, and D, F. Okay, so we are now going between D and E, or open and second fret, and D to F, or open and 3rd fret. This is only on the 4th string, that's it, nothing else. Okay, we're going to go through this one twice. You can see on the end of each of these exercises I've added repeat signs. So that means each exercise is played twice. Alright, let's go. 4 clicks and we'll start. To E, down to D, F, D again, E, D, F, repeat, aim for the tip of your finger. Let each knuckle on your left hand curve. Okay, quarter notes now. Still using thumb free strokes. Repeat. Next one is we're getting into more variation, right? It's not just half notes or just quarter notes, it's now half notes and quarter notes, and we are now also doing D, E, and D, F in some different orders. So it's not just D to E and then D to F, we're also doing E to F now, and then E to D, right? So a little bit more variation in this exercise here. Again, we're going to repeat this one. D to E, D to F, D to E, D to F, E to F, E to D, E to F, D. And repeat. The next one is using a D to B, and then, D string to the B string, and then a D string to the E string. So the first 4 measures are notes on our D string, so D, E, F, and back to E, and in between each of those times we switch that note, we're just playing an open B string. So it's some note on the 4th string and then open B. And then when we get to the 5th measure, it's some note on our 4th string and then an open E string. Okay, let's play this one twice. we're doing octaves and whole notes, and near the beginning we talked about what octaves were. Before we go any further, just to recap again on, since we're adding our fingers in now, you can either alternate if you'd like. You can, even when you're using your thumb, you can go like thumb and then M, and then thumb, then I. That's fine. You can also just do thumb, M, thumb, M, thumb, M, thumb, M. That's also fine. And the reason it's okay to, can I get my air quotes in here in the camera? I can get one air quote, there we go. The reason it's okay to repeat the notes is because we're not really repeating them, right? Because the thumb is in between them. So if there were no thumb note and we were doing like M, 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 that would be bad. Let's see, M. Badak says, I can see I'm the only viewer, I'm a guitarist. Can you play something for me? Well, yeah, I mean, we're playing through all the exercises here. So maybe at the end I'll play a classical piece. Sure, I'd love to, but not right now. So yeah, gonna go through the lesson. So for octaves, we are doing D to D, E to E, F to F, and G to G. Alright, let's go. 2, 3, 4. And then repeat. Okay, so the purpose of that exercise is just to show that we now have several different octaves, several different notes in the same pitch class. And hopefully you can hear how those sound the same on some level, right? D to D sounds like this, E to E, F to F, G to G. Listen to the difference when we play notes that are not of the same pitch class, like D to E, for example. Or F to G. There's not that same similarity that you get between octaves, right? Okay, let's do the same octaves but in half notes now. Okay, now we're learning about something called falling thirds and rising thirds, or ascending thirds and descending thirds, if you like. So in music, we measure things, we measure the distance between two notes, and we can call that an interval. So some of the sweet sounding intervals are called thirds, and that just means they're 3 letters apart in the alphabet. So this is an E note, right? And then 3 letters away from that is G. So we count E as 1, then you just go up, F is 2, and G is 3. And since we're playing in the key of C, we have no sharps or flats. Now that we have our low D note all the way up to G, we actually have quite a few thirds we can play. Some of them will be on one string, like this first E to G, and some of them will be split across 2 strings. But the important thing is that they're all 3 letters apart in the alphabet. Okay, so let's go through this. We'll play through it twice and see how it sounds. Repeat, 3, 4. Okay, so there's our falling thirds and rising thirds exercise. Next, we're finally to some sort of melodic ideas here. This is using a melody on just the D string and just the G string, just D and G. So just the 4th string and just the 3rd string. This is kind of a way to practice our notes that we've learned so far on these 2 strings. And just to recap, we know D, E, and F. Those are our new ones today. And we also know on the 3rd string G and A. Right? D, E, F, G, A. Okay, from the top. Okay, next one is a melody between the D and B strings. So now we're only using the 4th string and 2nd string. And to recap on those notes, again, our new notes today are D, E, F. And our 2nd string notes are B, C, and D. Okay, here we go. Next is a melody between the D string, as always our new string today, D, and our E string, or our first string. So fourth string and first string. And notes on the fourth string, again, are D, E, and F. Notes on the E string are E, F, and G. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, there's our D and E string melody. Now this is finally where we're getting to our true melodies here for today. So my goal for these melodies was to keep them, the majority of them, somewhat simple but still sounding nice. These will be a little bit more challenging than the previous exercises today, so compared to the rest of the stuff, these are probably more demanding of practice than the previous exercises, where the previous exercises are more just for technical repetition and you don't have to play through them that much, but these might, if you're a beginning guitarist, might require some more diligent practice. These include, I believe, yeah, we actually did put some sharps in here, but only the F sharp, and I believe F sharp is the only one we've looked at in the past. So there's really no new material here. It's just kind of a combination of everything we've done up until this point. Okay, so let's go through this first melody twice. Repeat. next melody. Nothing too special about this one, just kind of the same idea. Still in the key of C here. Take a moment to look through it if you'd like. And we'll start. 4 clicks and we'll begin, and we'll play through this one twice as well. And repeat. Okay, so if you didn't notice it, in this melody there's basically a repeat of the top line, but with some of the notes at their new lower octave, right? So, for example, this F goes down to this F instead on the second line. Same with this F going down to this F. This D going down to this D. We couldn't do it for every single note because we haven't learned some of those lower octave versions of like the C, for example, but yeah. Next one is another melody, and now we are in basically the key of G. There's no F sharps in this one yet, but what we're going to do is expand this with a challenge melody, if you like to call it that, which is a more advanced way to play it. The first line is just half notes. The second line is quarter notes and sort of expands on that, so you can see that the first melody note of the top line actually matches up with the first melody note of the second line, and same with the third note, or I should say the third beat, right? So first beat and third beat should always line up here on these two lines, and we've just basically added some notes in between them for this first exercise. And then when we get to this one, it's sort of its own thing, but it's also based up on this melody up here. Okay, so first 2 times through these 2 lines, and then we'll go on after that. Okay, next one is the challenge melody, and again, I've named these just as sort of a reminder to people that you're not expected to be able to play this right away, especially these challenge melodies, but they are something that should be doable after a little bit of practice. But if you can play them right away, then awesome. But yeah, practice is okay on these too. And again, the sheet music is in the Google Drive folder in the panel, in the Twitch video, and in the video description on YouTube. Okay, let's go twice through the challenge melody here. Okay, next one is just a final challenge melody, not really based on any of these other ones. Just for some extra fun. This one actually kind of progresses in a way that makes sense here. Each line gets just a little bit more difficult. We start with just thirds, actually. If you remember, we looked at ascending and descending thirds. All these notes here in each measure are 3 alphabet letters apart, right? So we have G to B, that's 3 letters. A to C is 3 letters. B to D is 3 letters, and so on. And then it changes up a little bit, I suppose. So like right here, these are not thirds, but for the most part, we get this down to the thirds for a little while, and then we go up into sort of a scale run here, and we fall back down into something very similar, but now we are adding a few other bass notes instead of the G on each beat. On beats 2 and 4, we're now adding some Ds, and it just sort of expands the sound a little bit, makes it sound like it has something called alternating bass, which almost gives it sort of a country sound, I guess. And we can go on to this after that, which just speeds up the rhythm of some of these notes, but it's otherwise the same. Okay, so 2 times through this one as well. Go through this second time, just to bring up the right hand one more time. There are a lot of different patterns you can do with your right hand. In fact, I'd say that the possibilities with your right hand are a lot more varied than your left hand. So for example, on the second line, I think for me what I like to do on this mostly is IM, or index middle, and then thumb middle. So IM, PM. And then sometimes I might switch to A on some of those higher strings, but I think everyone is going to have a slightly different variation of what they like to do with their right hand. So my suggestion is, if you find yourself stumbling with the right hand now that we've added some more complexity to what we're doing, spend time writing out your right hand fingerings for some of these more difficult ones, especially if you like the piece, because then it's a good way to practice what you're doing with your right hand, and you get that reward of something that sounds good, hopefully, if you like the piece, and the better you can play it, the stronger that reward will be. So but yeah, just a quick recap is I like to do mostly IM and then PM for this stuff. And then when we get down to here, I think maybe repeating like either MI or AM, something like I or P first, one of the two, and then either AM or MI. So here would be like PMI. Right, so that's PMI, PM, PMI, PM. That would work. You could also do PAM. If you are favoring your stronger fingers, then it would definitely be these three, right? So it'd be P, M, I, P, M. Something like that. Okay. So one more time through this challenge melody. Okay, so that's the end of our lesson 6 here. So just to recap, our basic goal of this lesson was to practice our 3 new notes, D, not E, D, E, and F on the 4th string. And we went through and used that D string in some different ways here, right? We used it in our challenge melodies a little bit, we used it in our regular melodies, and yeah, hopefully that's a good introduction to the D string. Next time we'll go ahead and add our A string notation, and after that we'll add our E string notation, and then I think we'll probably throw some supplementary melody lessons in there just to kind of expand more on what we can do with all the notes we've learned so far, and then we'll get into playing more chords and arpeggios and stuff like that, and just continue ramping up the kind of stuff we're doing.